Before humans named the world, before cities, before memory itself, this planet may have already known rulers. Tonight, we explore the idea that humanity did not arrive first, but inherited a world shaped long before us. What if the mountains we climb were once foundations? What if the valleys we till were shaped by hands not human? What if every ancient story whispered around dying fires carries within it the echo of an older truth? Long before scribes pressed reed to clay, before the first pyramid rose from desert sands, there may have been others. The texts call them the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came. But who were they? And if they were here, what did they leave behind? To understand what humanity may have inherited, we must first journey to the beginning. Not our beginning, but the beginning before us. In the oldest texts, preserved on clay, in languages forgotten and then remembered, the Sumerians speak of a time before time. They write of the Anunnaki with the same matter-of-factness that they record harvests and floods. The word itself is carved into thousands of tablets. Anunnaki, those of royal blood, those who descended. The texts do not question their existence. They simply record it as one might record the rising of the sun. According to these ancient writings, there were originally 7 who descended, 7 great ones who looked upon the earth when it was young, when the waters still covered much of the land, when no human voice had yet named the animals or the stars. They came, the tablets tell us, in search of something. The word used is Ku-sig 17, gold. But perhaps this is too simple a translation. Perhaps what they sought was something we no longer have words for. The early earth was rich with metals, with minerals, with resources unknown. The Anunnaki established dominion over these riches, dividing the world among themselves, the heavens, the earth, and the waters beneath. Anu, whose name means sky, remained in the heights. Enlil, the lord of the air and earth, took dominion over the land. And Enki, the crafty one, the wise one, descended into the watery depths, the Abzu, where he established his dwelling. For ages uncounted by human calendars, they worked. The tablets speak of toil, of labor, of the endless extraction from deep within the earth. They dug channels. They moved mountains. They shaped the rivers. But labor, even for gods, grows wearisome. And it is here, in this moment of divine exhaustion, that humanity enters the story, not as the purpose of creation, but as its consequence. The Mesopotamian creation epic, the Atrahasis, tells us that humanity was fashioned not from divine breath or cosmic will, but from necessity. The lesser Anunnaki, those who bore the burden of labor, grew weary. They cast down their tools. They kindled fires of rebellion. The great assembly convened. Enki, ever the problem solver, proposed a solution. He would create a primitive worker, a Lulu, to bear the yoke. The tablets describe the process with strange precision. Let them mix clay with the flesh and blood of a god. Let them hear the heartbeat. Let a ghost come into existence from the god's flesh. Let her proclaim it as his living sign. 7 males, 7 females. The first humans were made in batches, manufactured like vessels, like tools. But they were given something unexpected, the essence of a divine being, the blood of a sacrificed god mixed into the clay. Thus, humanity emerged, not as the crown of creation, but as a solution to a labor shortage. We were the helpers, the servers, the ones who would work the gardens and tend the flocks and extract the precious metals from the earth. The Anunnaki had created a workforce, but they had also created something else. Beings with a spark of the divine within them. Beings who could learn, who could remember, who could eventually surpass the purpose for which they were made. The tablets speak of cities being gifted to humanity. 5 cities before the flood: Eridu, Bad Tabira, Larak, Sipar, and Shurupak. Each was given to humanity to tend, to build, to maintain. But these were not human designs. The Sumerians themselves claim these cities existed before the flood, established by the Anunnaki as centers of operation, as nodes in a network that spanned the earth. In each city, an Anunnaki lord maintained a residence. The temples, the ziggurats that would rise later, were built atop older foundations, places where heaven and earth met, where the Anunnaki descended and ascended. Humanity served, humanity learned, humanity multiplied, and the Anunnaki watched. But something was changing. The texts hint at it. A gradual shift, a growing complexity in the relationship between maker and made. The Anunnaki began to take human partners. The tablets speak of marriages, of unions, of children born between worlds. The Nephilim, the fallen ones, appear in multiple traditions, described as the offspring of divine beings and human women. These hybrids became the heroes of old, the mighty warriors, the kings who reigned for impossibly long years in the earliest king lists. Their lifespans stretched across centuries. Alulim reigned 28,800 years, the lists claim. Alaugar, 36,000 years. Were these exaggerations, myths, or records of beings who lived by different measures, whose bodies carried both human and something other? The ancient world speaks of this blending in hushed tones, as both gift and transgression, as evolution and corruption. But with each generation, humanity grew more numerous, more loud, more independent. What the Anunnaki had created to serve was learning to choose. The tablets tell us that the great god Enlil grew disturbed by the noise of humanity. The word used, rigmu, means more than sound. It suggests chaos, disorder, a disruption of the natural order. Humanity had become too successful, too many. The world the Anunnaki had shaped for their own purposes was being reshaped by the very servants they had created. The assembly of the great Anunnaki convened once more. A decision was reached, one that would alter the world forever. They would send a flood. They would reset creation. They would begin again. But Enki, ever the sympathizer with humanity, chose to intervene. He could not speak directly against the decree of the council, but he could whisper to the walls, knowing that humans would overhear. The story of Utnapishtim, of Atrahasis, of Noah, it appears across cultures, across languages, with remarkable consistency. A flood is coming. Build a vessel. Preserve the seed of all living things. One family, one vessel. The dimensions recorded in cubits, 300 long, 50 wide, 30 high. Large enough to preserve not just humans, but the animals, the seeds, the knowledge that would be needed to begin again. The texts describe the flood with terrible detail. The springs of the great deep burst forth. The windows of heaven opened. For 40 days and 40 nights, some texts say longer, the world was unmade. The Anunnaki themselves fled, the tablets tell us. They ascended to the heavens, watching from above, as the earth they had shaped was drowned. Some texts suggest they regretted the decision, that they wept as they watched. But the vessel survived. The seed was preserved. When the waters receded, when the land re-emerged from beneath the depths, humanity stepped forth once more, fewer in number, but carrying the memories of the world that had been. The Anunnaki descended once more. They found humanity alive. According to the texts, Enlil was furious that his plan had been subverted. But Enki argued that complete destruction was too severe. Humanity had earned the right to continue. A new arrangement was made. Humanity would continue, but under new terms. Their lifespans would be shortened. No more would humans live for centuries. Their numbers would be controlled through disease, through predators, through the natural limits of the earth. And the Anunnaki themselves would begin to withdraw. They would step back from direct rule, operating instead through intermediaries, through kings who could claim divine descent, through priests who maintained the temples, through systems of governance that echoed their own hierarchy. What humanity inherited then was not a pristine world, but one that had been shaped, worked, altered by others. We inherited their cities, their agriculture, their knowledge, but also their scars. Look at the river valleys of the ancient world: the Tigris, the Euphrates, the Nile. Their courses have been modified, straightened, directed. The Sumerians didn't invent irrigation. The tablets suggest they inherited it, learning from those who came before. The knowledge of metallurgy appears suddenly in the archaeological record. The Bronze Age emerging as if from nowhere, with sophisticated techniques for extracting and combining metals. The Anunnaki were mining metals, the texts insist. Did they teach us? Or did we learn by observation, by reverse engineering what we found? The great stone structures of the ancient world, not just in Mesopotamia, but across the globe, share uncanny similarities. Massive blocks, precisely fitted, oriented to celestial phenomena. Were these built by humans alone, or on foundations laid by others? The Anunnaki established systems. Kingship descended from heaven, the texts say. The first kings were not chosen by people, but appointed by divine decree. The entire structure of early civilization mirrors what the Anunnaki had established among themselves. Hierarchy, divine right. The king as intermediary between heaven and earth. These weren't human innovations. They were inherited templates, patterns we learned from observing those who ruled before us. The temples themselves served dual purposes. Yes, they were places of worship, but the texts describe them also as landing places, as residences, as centers of administration. The word for temple, simply means house. These were the houses of the Anunnaki. When the Anunnaki withdrew, humanity maintained these houses, kept them in readiness, performed the rituals that had once served practical purposes, but became, over time, symbolic. We inherited their calendar, the division of the year into 12 months, the sexagesimal system of counting, the careful observation of celestial cycles. These weren't discovered through trial and error. They appear fully formed in the earliest records. The Sumerians knew of planets invisible to the naked eye. Their star charts show knowledge that shouldn't have been possible without optical instruments. Did they observe these themselves, or inherit charts made by those with greater capabilities? Most significantly, we inherited their stories. Every culture preserves tales of tall beings who came from the sky, who taught humanity arts and sciences, who took human partners, who grew disappointed and departed. The names change: Anunnaki, Elohim, Neteru, Viracocha, but the story remains consistent. Before we were civilized, someone civilized us. Before we built cities, someone showed us how. This is not to diminish human achievement. Perhaps the greatest inheritance was capacity itself, the ability to learn, to remember, to build upon what came before. The Anunnaki made us as servants, but in giving us their divine essence, they gave us the potential to become something more. The tablets grow quieter about the Anunnaki as human history progresses. They don't vanish suddenly. Instead, they fade like stars at dawn, still present but no longer dominant. The king lists shift. Where once monarchs reigned for thousands of years, suddenly the numbers become believable. 20 years, 30, 40. The switch is dramatic, as if a different kind of being had taken the throne. Some texts suggest the Anunnaki retreated to the mountains, to high places where they could observe without interfering. Others suggest they departed entirely, returning to wherever they had originally descended from. The last clear references to their direct presence occur around the time humanity begins keeping more detailed records, as if their withdrawal and our remembering are inversely related. The more we learn to chronicle our own story, the less they appeared in it. But did they truly leave, or did they simply stop intervening? Did they achieve what they came for? Or did they recognize that humanity had outgrown its original purpose? Some traditions hold that they left guardians, the 7 sages, the Apkallu, beings of mixed nature who would continue to teach and guide humanity through the ages. Part fish, part human, wise beyond measure. These sages appear at crucial moments in Mesopotamian history, teaching kings, founding cities, delivering tablets of destiny. They are the bridge between the age of the Anunnaki and the age of humanity. As generations passed, as kingdoms rose and fell, as languages changed and memory faded, the Anunnaki transformed in human understanding. They became gods of myth rather than recorded history. Their deeds became legends. Their teachings became traditions whose origins were forgotten. But the inheritance remained. In our cities, in our governments, in our constant urge to reach beyond ourselves, to build higher, to understand deeper, to return to the stars from which perhaps our creators came. What if every ambition humanity harbors is an echo of the Anunnaki? What if our drive to explore, to extract, to shape the world is inherited memory? We were made as a tool species, but we became something else, conscious, questioning, creative. We inherited a modified world, but we continued modifying it, never satisfied, always building. The question is not whether the story is literally true, whether beings from the sky truly descended and shaped early humanity. The question is what such stories preserve. What memory, what truth, what understanding of our place in a deeper history. We are the inheritors. Whether of alien intervention or evolutionary triumph, we possess something remarkable. The ability to look back across thousands of years, to read the thoughts of the long dead pressed in clay, and to wonder. The Anunnaki may be gone, or perhaps they were never here at all in the way the texts describe. But the world they allegedly shaped remains, a world of rivers directed by intention, of minerals extracted from deep earth, of systems and structures that echo divine pattern. And we remain, the servants who became masters, the tools who became artists, the created who became creators in our own right. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, consider this. Every structure you inhabit, every system you participate in, every ambition you harbor may be part of a longer story than you knew. not diminished by this possibility, but deepened. We walk on a world that was old before we named it. We inherit mysteries we may never fully understand. And in that inheritance lies both humility and wonder, the recognition that we are part of something larger, older, stranger than ourselves. The Anunnaki, whether memory or myth, remind us that humanity's story may be one chapter in a longer book. And perhaps that is exactly as it should be. Before humans named the world, it already had a name. Based on ancient Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian texts, including the Atrahasis, Enuma, Elish, and various king lists and cylinder seals. All interpretations presented as historical curiosity and mythological exploration. Sleep well, wonder deeply,